This is the PNW Ag Network.
Welcome to KELA's Let's Talk About It. Discussions on a variety of topics of interest to Southwest Washington area listeners. Write down our listener call-in number and keep it handy. 330-5352. That's 330-KELA. You're invited to join in with your calls now at 330-KELA. Views expressed on this show are those of the host, guests, and callers, and are not necessarily those of the station, its management, or advertisers. Daily programs are recorded for playback, podcasts, and promotional purposes. And now, let's talk about it.
Good morning. Welcome back to the Let's Talk About It show here on AM1470 KELA and streaming KELAAM.com. I'm your host, Peter Abbarno, for another special Thursday edition of the show. I'll take some calls in a little bit, but I've got a really special guest. And, you know, special guest, special show. I call it Special Thursdays because it's the day that I actually host the show. So it's special to me, and I know it's special to the listeners. So let's start with this. My special guest is running for U.S. Senate against someone who has been in public office since 1985, local, state, and then federal. So let's put that in perspective, sports fans. 1985, Pete Rose broke Ty Cobb's all-time hitting record in Major League Baseball. There was a basketball team called the Kansas City Kings, right? And that's when Patty Murray first started drawing a public paycheck from local level, then state, then federal. So if you're not a sports fan, we could also put it in perspective for maybe a television fan. You like sitcoms? The Cosby Show was the number one rated show when she took office, and I, Peter Abbarno, was still in middle school. So public office, 36 years, and 30 years in the other Washington. So let's look around. Let's look at crime. Let's look at inflation and poverty, lack of housing inventory. Let's look at our school systems. Let's look at the cost of living, those kitchen table issues I talk about all the time, you know, like childcare deserts and intergenerational poverty. Are we better off today in this Washington, or do we need new perspective from our leaders in the other Washington? Well, you're going to get the opportunity to decide in November. And my special guest this morning is U.S. Senate candidate Tiffany Smiley. She is here in the beautiful Evergreen State, ready I heard this morning, I talked to her, she said she's on her way to Seattle soon, but she's with us now. So good morning and welcome to the show, Tiffany. We appreciate you being here.
Yes, good morning, Peter. Thank you so much for having me on. We have, really important issues facing us today, unfortunately. And I want to say in 1985, I was 4 years old here in Washington State.
Right, and I was 10. And it's just a long time. I mean, we hear the sports analogy as well sometimes, even with coaches and others, that a lot of times doing the same thing is not going to get the results. And I feel a lot of folks here in Washington are feeling that stress that, are we just spinning our wheels?
Exactly. And you're exactly right. After 30 years, we should be better off. And we're not. I have 3 kids in the public school system. We have watched that decline considerably as far as competitive quality education. You look at inflation and the cost of living, just go down the list, right? Even you look at the crime and the fentanyl in our cities, and it's not just in Seattle. Fentanyl, I just heard a horrible story, awful story about a family in Spokane that just lost their young son to fentanyl. And, I went back and looked in the records and of course, Patty Murray's been in the Senate for 30 years. So I don't know how good records there was early on, but from what I saw, there was no record of Patty ever even going to the border, which doesn't make any sense to me. And in addition to that, I believe our elected officials should be held to town halls. I can't wait to get in the Senate, and I will host 10 town halls across Washington State when I am the next senator. Why has Patty Murray not done that? Why has she not listened to us?
Yeah, and that's really a good point. And I've been following this issue. It's not getting enough coverage, I don't think, because, with 3 decades of voting records in Washington, D.C., you would think that our current senator would be proud to lay her issues
Yes.
and accomplishments on the table.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about that. So you've agreed to debate, but Senator Murray has not yet agreed to that.
Correct. I on Monday I accepted the Washington Debate Coalition's offer to participate in 2 debates. The first one will be October 7th. For the second one, we're just asking for it to be before ballots drop, which I think is very fair. And the voters deserve to hear both sides prior to getting their ballots. I'm also, in the process of expanding the debate calendar as well. So I've reached out to CNN and Jake Tapper. I'm asking them to sponsor and moderate an additional debate. And I've also reached out to the station managers in the 4 major networks in the Tri-Cities, asking them to host a moderated debate. I haven't heard back from the networks in the Tri-Cities. I'm hoping to very soon. The voters deserve to hear from both sides. And just like you were saying, a 30-year record in the Senate, why is Patty Murray not faced this? Why is she not answered? And I think we haven't heard from Patty. I don't know if she's committed yet, but I guess my question is, why is it so hard to commit to these debates?
I agree. Yeah.
Is
No,
she
I
afraid
agree.
to debate a farm girl from Pasco, or is she worried about defending her 30-year record? I think those are the questions we need to ask.
No, and I think that's really reasonable. If you're just tuning in to Let's Talk About It, AM1470 KELA, or you're streaming at KELAAM.com. My special guest this morning from the campaign trail is U.S. Senate candidate Tiffany Smiley. And you brought up an interesting point that I didn't even really discuss in my notes was, Senator Murray just recently had a roundtable. I don't know who was invited to it. I wasn't invited to it, but a roundtable about anti-gang funding, which seems a little counterintuitive because she still believes that the border should remain open. And we know that we're having a problem with gang members coming across the border.
Right. Yep. You're exactly right. And in addition to that, fentanyl, we know it's here in Washington State. We know it's killing our kids. She also hosted a roundtable on the fentanyl crisis, and she actually held a hearing in D.C. But like I say to Washington voters, hearings don't save lives. Actions and solutions do. And there's no reason why we should not have a secure border and stop the flow of fentanyl, stop the flow of gang members coming into our small communities. They're in Yakima Valley. I was talking with the sheriff in Yakima Valley. He's seen an increase in this activity. We have human trafficking coming up the I-5 corridor, which Patty Murray has never addressed. I mean, these are problems that are just continuing to get worse. It should alarm every single American. Every single Washington voter should be concerned about this.
Absolutely. And again, I think that's the reason why we have debates. I mean, I'm a state house member myself. I mean, I'm always willing to have town halls. And a lot of times you have people that come to those who don't agree with you, but appreciate that you're listening and that you're paying attention. And so debates are meant because a lot of times candidates will create their own narrative with their own headline. But like we just discussed, it's nice to have a headline that says I'm going to do anti-gang funding. But okay, let's have this discussion about why we need more funding because Patty Murray is at least condoning the gang members crossing the border.
Yeah, and let's talk about her going on the Senate floor of June of 2020 and calling for funds to be diverted away from police forces. I mean, let's talk about the facts. Yeah. Let's talk about what you have actually said, what your policies have led to in the situation that we are in.
Well, I definitely hope that we get a debate for, regardless of party or persuasion of a candidate. I really think that open town halls and these types of debates are really very healthy for America and healthy for our state, especially when there's always that incumbency advantage. And really, candidates like you that have a good message should be allowed to question incumbents about their positions. So absolutely.
Yep. And what I'm hearing on the trail is, people are saying, where is Patty Murray? Like, she is non-existent. She all of a sudden, they said, well, we just saw her when she started attacking you. I mean, I think that's just a terrible look for a public servant. She should be coming back and being confident in sharing everything that she's been able to deliver for us. And just unfortunately, she can't. And certainly that's why I'm running to better represent Washington State.
Well, and one of your issues, and you see it on, in your speeches, and you hear it. I'm a husband and father of elementary age kids. My wife's a teacher. Your emphasis on family really resonates with a lot of working families that are feeling either powerless or unheard, that they don't have any ability to change or impact the lives of their children and families. So are you hearing that feedback from around the state that parents especially are just feeling hopeless? And that's sad to feel hopeless.
Yes. I am hearing that, and it breaks my heart. It also emboldens me even more on the campaign trail to continue to fight for their voices, to fight. I'm fighting for my children. I'm fighting for your children, fighting for our grandchildren for generations to come. And we have a lot of work to do. I mean, we have, Senator Patty Murray, who's been non-existent, who was complicit with, these extreme mandates that we had to face here in Washington State with school closures. She's never addressed the increase in suicide and the increase in depression in our children, the lack of education that they lost. And not only that, our business certainly suffered. We have a public speaking business. So, of course, the entertainment industries really shut down. And then we were home with our kids and trying to figure out life and business and education of our children. It was a lot. And we had no leadership. We had no one standing up and being a voice for our kids. And I say, what happened over these last 2 years with our kids? Like, I'm a triage nurse, right? We should be able to triage. But unfortunately, what we did is we caused more harm. On top of our, the pandemic, we caused more harm, which it breaks my heart. It doesn't have to be this way. It absolutely does not have to be this way. Our children need competitive, quality education. They need to have a tax credit option where the money follows the child, where a parent could choose, could have chosen to put their child in the school that was still open and educate their children. Your zip code does not determine your destiny in Washington State, and I look forward to fighting for all families across Washington State.
Well, and if you're just tuning in to Let's Talk About It, AM1470 KELA or KELAAM.com, maybe you're streaming, my special guest this morning, U.S. Senate candidate Tiffany Smiley. And education, obviously, is a really important issue for all families, especially in communities like mine, where there's high poverty rates and there's intergenerational poverty. Early education, preschool, and then a good K through 12 system is essential. Patty Murray started her career as a school board member and really ran on education, but I have not seen it improving in those 30 years. Actually, I see it getting worse.
You are absolutely right. I'm a product of the public school system. My 3 boys are in the public school system, and you are absolutely, that's what I say everywhere. It's like in 30 years, it has gotten worse. It's absolutely unacceptable. We need to make sure that our kids at a young age are exposed to different pathways, whether it's trades or vocation, that they have exposure to this, that college pathway is not for everyone. We need to ensure that we're expanding our dual language programs, that our children are graduating and they have could speak multiple languages. These are the things that lift people out of poverty, that lift them out to chase their American dream. Unfortunately, Patty Murray's policies have held back and pushed down, and is making it harder to achieve that.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I know an issue you're so passionate about because of your husband. I just want, Patty Murray sits on Veterans Affairs Committee, right? And here in Lewis County, for instance, we have a population of about 13% veteran and military. And then if you include families, it's probably closer to 20, right? We lost our VA clinic and it got moved up to Olympia. So there's a lot of veterans in rural areas that are not getting the services or finding it very difficult to get the services that they need. What would you tell veterans in communities here in Southwest Washington about how and what you would do to advocate for them?
Yes, you're right, Patty Murray, and I say she kind of went in saying she was going to fight for veterans, but over 30 years, it's been one disaster after another. You take the Cerna electronic medical files, for example, which was a total disaster. They had to shut it down completely. exactly what you're talking about, veterans in rural areas. That's who I personally am. Like, I know what that feels like because that's our family. We have to drive miles, spend days just to get Scotty the care that he needs. I want our veterans to be able to go to a doctor around the corner down the street and get the best care, that they shouldn't be waiting weeks, months, driving miles, spending days to get the care that they earned. If Patty Murray couldn't fix it at 30 years, she's not going to fix it in the next 6 years. In fact, I have a track record of taking on big government, of building coalitions, of making change in the VA in my own volunteer free time. So I cannot wait to get to the Senate and roll up my sleeves and get to work on this and deliver results. I always say the veteran is our customer. Let's start delivering results for the customer. I also put out an initiative we have one of the highest homeless veteran rates in the country. I believe we're top 5. So if Patty Murray was really good at putting veterans at the top of her list, I don't think we'd be in this situation. But unfortunately, we are. So I put out a policy where, these different VA places or centers, we need to have a hub where veterans can come. They can get housing, they can get care, drug addiction care, they can get mental health, and all of their resources are in one place. So it's not just housing, but it's a multifaceted approach, working with the local and county governments along with the federal government, and work on family, unifying them with their family. I think that's important as well. And then having a transition process once they get the services they need. There's a lot of veterans out there in Washington State who don't even know that they have services that they earned. Yeah. And care that they earn. So making sure that that's all in place, transitioning them into job training, temporary housing, and then into permanent housing. I can't wait to implement this. It's not a money problem because we have the money, and that's clear. It's a solutions problem.
Yeah, and I love that theme because we use that a lot in Olympia too, in the legislature. It's, when are we going to start measuring the success of a program by the number of people we lift out of poverty rather than just keep throwing money at the same program that keeps them in poverty?
That's right. That's exactly right. And that's what we need in Washington State. We need to look at these programs. And unfortunately, a lot of them aren't working, and we just continue to throw more money at them. We have the money there. We just need to work together. We need solutions. We need fresh ideas, right? 30 years in the Senate. If you haven't been able to fix this, you're not going to do it in the next 6.
It's definitely a long time. So I want to be very respectful of your time. I mean, I know you're traveling around and you're headed off to Seattle. It's my understanding. So why don't you leave? Why don't you take a minute to kind of leave our listeners with, how they can contact you, how they can help you, and where you might be, and maybe in the coming week.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for having me on. I have been in all 39 counties in Washington State, many of them multiple times. And I launched my campaign early because I wanted to listen. I wanted to hear what families are facing. And just like we talked about, there is hopelessness out there. And there's people wondering, what does the future hold? Is the American dream going to be there for my children? And so that's what we are fighting for every day. I'm taking everything I've listened to and bringing it to the forefront, through this general election, the campaign, all the way through November to win. And I would love to have anyone join this movement. I always say I am funded by the people of Washington State, and I am so proud of it. That's why Patty Murray is nervous. I'm the most well-funded candidate to date because I have the people behind me. So people can join us at smileyforwashington.com. You can sign up to be a volunteer on there. You can donate to our campaign. You can stay up to date with different stops, places that we will be in the coming months. And, of course, our press and media anytime we're on TV or that sort of thing. So join us. Also, our social media channels are Smiley for Washington. Get engaged, get involved. And then not just you, I always say, but get your neighbor, get your family, and get your friends. This is all hands on deck. We need to get Washington State on the right track.
Well, I appreciate you taking time to join us and share, your ideas and being open about it. And most certainly, I'm not, I've never kind of kept this a secret. I mean, if Patty Murray wanted to come on the show and maybe even share her thoughts on some of these things, I would do the same. But most certainly the most effective way is to have these types of open debates. And I hope she accepts them because, people need to know. So
that's right.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you being on the show, and have a safe travels out to Seattle.
Thank you. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
All right. Thank you. Yeah. We're going to take a brief moment for our sponsors, and we'll be back to take your calls, 360-330-5352. You're listening to the Let's Talk About It show on AM1470 KELA, or maybe you're streaming KELAAM.com.
Summer is the premier time to showcase your home and property. Hi, this is Heather Stewart, your local real estate professional with Blade Realty. The housing demand is high, inventory is low, and home buyers are ready to purchase. If you're looking to sell or invest in real estate, take advantage of my stellar service and local relationships, leading to smooth closings and a positive experience. For your trusted real estate professional, find me online at heatherstewartrealtor.com or on Facebook, and let's get moving.
This is Peter Abbarno with the law firm Althaus Abbarno. For over 75 years, our attorneys have successfully represented individuals and businesses throughout Washington State. To meet with an Althaus Abbarno attorney in Centralia or Olympia, visit us at centralialaw.com. That's
business banking made personal and easy. It's Timberland Bank's way to take the time to find solutions and services for your business, and as simple as opening a business account online. We provide cash management and merchant services, remote deposit, payment processing solutions, and of course, business loans, complete with fast, local support. It's what we do, so let's do it for you.
Banking made easy since 1915. Member FDIC and equal housing lender. Timberland Bank. How can we help you?
Total shoulder replacement with patient-specific instrumentation allows surgeons to customize and individualize shoulder replacement, giving you the best chance for long-term success. Washington Orthopedic Center's Dr. Nami Gazemi is one of the few fellowship-trained shoulder surgeons in the region and one of the only surgeons who utilizes this technology locally. Now available as an outpatient procedure, Dr. Gazemi is looking forward to working with you on the best option for your total shoulder replacement. Learn more at waortho.com.
What's happening?
Let's get to work.
Yeah! On the web, on your phone, and on the air.
KELA. Let's talk about
it. Welcome back to the Let's Talk About It show on AM1470 KELA or KELAAM.com. I'm your host, Peter Abbarno. On this Thursday, it's going to be a scorcher, so make sure you stay hydrated, maybe stay inside, maybe one of those little fans you got, the battery-operated ones. I saw someone at the Southwest Washington Fair yesterday with one of those, it was those multicolored hat with like a mister attached to the brim. So it's going to be hot out there, so stay safe, keep your family safe. This is when you don't leave your pets in the sun or in your car. This is when you make sure that you're hydrated and your kids are hydrated. It's always important to stay safe. If you missed the show, come visit KELAAM.com. Later on today, we'll have the show and the interview with U.S. Senate candidate Tiffany Smiley. We'll have it posted for you to listen to if you want to listen to it again. Good show. I mean, I think she's right on. I mean, whatever you feel about a Republican, a Democrat, a conservative, a liberal, I mean, if you've been in office, and again, as a state representative, I feel this way, and my community knows this. I go to almost everything. And there are times you go to meetings and people will point their finger at you and they're not happy about a vote or they're not happy about what you said or what you did. But more than anything, it's respect. And it's respect because as an elected official, you are going to end up representing people that may not agree with you and may not even like you. But that doesn't mean that you don't advocate for them. It doesn't mean that you don't listen to them. And it doesn't mean that you don't keep an open door policy. And that's why I think, these debates, especially debates that are, managed by a third party are good. I mean, I think they're good, and it's important to hear, a challenger like Tiffany Smiley. It's good to hear her ideas and for her to make, the same remarks I think she made today about, hey, in 30 years, look around. You've been in the other Washington. Is this Washington better off today than it was 5 years ago, maybe 10 years ago, or 30 years ago? I don't know if a lot of people can say yes to that. And so we have to look at, maybe we need a change. And I would argue you probably do. 30 years is a long time. It's one reason why I've always been an advocate of term limits. Now, what that means or how that looks, I don't know. But I don't think that elected officials should make public service a career. I have my own business. I'm an attorney. I'm a business owner. I say this all the time. You know, my main job is being a husband and father. Family is the most important thing. But I have something that I do on the side. That's my job. Public service is something I do because I want to improve my community. It shouldn't be something that we do as a career. 30 years is a long time. I mean, even longer if you include all of public service. I mean, you're talking like 36 years or something. I mean, I was 10 years old. You know, that's maybe too long. We've got some really good events coming up. If you're in the area, don't forget the Southwest Washington Fair is still going on through Sunday. A lot of fun. The 4-H Horse Barn, FFA, hobbies and toys and rides and food. It's just a lot of fun. My daughter's in 4-H and she's riding horses. And so a lot of great people just coming out and supporting all these kids who have worked hard all year long on their skills and raising animals and just putting together hobbies and different things. I know that my son worked with Dale and Tina Merton and made pens out of like saguaro wood and different types of things. And then they get to showcase this to everybody at the fair. It's just an amazing opportunity for especially our youth to kind of break out of their shell and show some of their crafts and their talents. Speaking of the Mertons, don't forget August 26th, I have an awesome barbecue over at the Merton Ranch in Toledo. It's only $20, and we're going to have a lot of great speakers. House Republican leader J.T. Wilcox will be there. There'll be other local and state candidates and elected officials talking about, the importance of getting involved and the importance of, post-primary kind of getting together and really do, kind of moving forward in unity. And so if you want to do that, find me on social media, electpeterabbarno.com. There's a lot of stuff on social media posted about that, but just a lot of really great events. And really happy that our community, whether you're at the Thurston County Fair, the Cowlitz County Fair, the Clark County Fair, or even right now the Southwest Washington Fair here in Lewis County, it's just great to see an emphasis on agriculture, because that's another really important issue that we need to continue to focus on. Supporting our farmers, supporting our ranchers, supporting the history and tradition of that in our communities is just really important. So let's take a call. Good morning. Welcome to the show. You're on the air.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, two things. First off, it would have been nice for us to be able to ask the candidate some questions, but
yeah, you can't do that when they call in. That's something that's always been on the show.
Okay. Well, Anyway, one thing that keeps getting ignored about Patty Murray, and of course you guys are way too young to remember this, when she first took office, is she bragged about how great Osama bin Laden was and how he was building roads and schools and everything else. And she's never taken that back. She's never said anything when, he was responsible for 9/11 as the mastermind and stuff like that. And it seems like everyone keeps ignoring the fact that Patty Murray's been wrong on just about everything she's ever said. And that's one of the big things. I mean, she was a big vocal proponent for Osama bin Laden.
Yeah.
And, it's sad that everyone seems to forget that.
Until right now. Until you brought it up, and now it's back on top. Because I remember the reference, but I had forgotten that she had done that. So there you go. I mean, I think that's really an important point as well. Yeah.
Right. And then you were talking about, term limits and stuff like that at the state level, at the state level. And, one of the things that right now we've got a problem with the Jay Inslee is still, we're under emergency declaration, or he's in charge of everything, however you want to put it. But, no one's ever held JT Wilcox, I believe. They've never held his feet to the fire for voting for giving him that right in the first place.
All right, well, I got to run. We're running out of time, but I could say that the Four Corners type of proclamations are a lot different than the Jay Inslee proclamations. And just remember, there was a bill, and I was a co-sponsor of it, that would have limited Jay Inslee's power under emergency powers. The House Democrats would not bring it up for a vote. Well, they actually brought it up for discussion and then pulled it. If there's a big complaint about why we're under an emergency orders and emergency declaration by Governor Inslee, look no further than the legislative majorities who have allowed this to happen. Thanks for tuning in to Let's Talk About It, KELA AM 1470. Have a great day, great weekend.